So the idea is to do taxes, but without using deterrents for tax enforcement, and instead move towards using a reward system. This is made possible by a new infrastructure that I describe as the transaction web. The transaction, the idea is that every time you make transactions or payments, that's going to produce pathways, which are a bit similar to how links are formed on the World Wide Web, on the internet. And those then are going to, as transactions are made from buying stuff from companies and so on, that's going to produce transaction pathways that connect over time into a global transaction web. And so here's the Solidity code for that.
Welcome to our network, the world's first peer-to-peer financial security. How does it work? Let me show you. Every time you create a transaction, you open up what we call a dividend pathway. It's through these pathways that you connect to your swarm in the global network.
And so these transaction pathways, I call them dividend pathways in that video from 2 years ago. What they do is that every time when you are consuming, you're producing pathways that are connecting to a larger transaction web. And through these pathways, you'll be rewarded with universal basic income, which acts as an enforcement mechanism, as a force, sort of in rule of law, or rule of law 2.0. Makes the consumers seek out companies that are contributing taxes to the transaction web, to society, and then that in turn makes it self-policing the system. So the consumers are seeking out companies and supply chains who are in turn employing people and so on. So and this produces pathways where tax is extracted and redistributed through swarm redistribution to all humans on the planet, potentially. And the taxation model is based on Edgar L. Feige's paper from 1998, tax, which is defined as the broadest possible tax base at the lowest possible tax rate. So with transaction tax, you can have very low percentages of taxation, but still have very large tax pools assembled from that. And so every it's attached to be an enforcement mechanism, a force. Additionally, that's done with deterrence and violence, which acts on the on survival instincts. And the idea is then that the reward mechanism is strong enough so that can be the enforcement mechanism. And in Maslow's hierarchy, the universal basic income satisfies basic needs, physiological needs and safety needs, which could then make it work as an incentive for system. And from the consumer perspective, whenever the transactions they produce, or you produce, initially they're not connected to any other pathways, since the pathways grow chronologically. So the most recent transaction is going to be just a single pathway. But as the company you consume from makes transactions, that's going to gradually, over time, grow into what I call a branching scheme, which is a decentralized wealth transfer system, a local one. And the word comes from pyramid schemes, since pyramid schemes are using a reward mechanism to fuel and as the engine of a decentralized wealth transfer system. Though with branching schemes, the pathways are also decaying. they are always growing and they're always decaying. So they're different, but they use the same sort of incentive in some ways.